first lesson we have learned the meaning of psychology and the meaning of education. And what is educational psychology and its objectives we have already discussed. In my second lessons, I have discussed with you the scope of educational psychology. So today I'll be dealing with the contribution of psychology and education, or you can say the psychology to education. Number one, why do we study psychology in the education is that number one point is to understand the developmental characteristics. So first thing, that the important point is that why do we study psychology in education? Because the psychology helps us to understand the growth and developmental stages of the children. So according to the growth and stages of the learners, they have their different traits and personalities. So based on that, the teachers taught according to their growth level and their age level. So regarding this, the growth and developmental stages of the child, in detail I'll discuss with you. In this, I'll be discussing their cognitive development, their emotional development, all these aspects I'll be discussing with the coming chapter. So first point, the contribution of psychology to the education is to understand the developmental characteristics of the learners. The second point is quickly to understand the nature of classroom learning. So as I have said in my previous lessons, that the scope of education successfully, the first one is the learner, the second is the learning situation. So psychology helps us to understand the learning situation and what environment the child should be taught. And it is the nature of classroom setting is very, very important for the learners. So many a times their environment affect their learnings. So regarding all this topic in detail, I'll be discussing in the what is learning, the nature of learning and scope of learning in the coming lessons. The third point, the contribution of psychology to education is to understand the individual difference. We know as a psychologist that all children are not alike. They have a different traits. So according to their heredity and their environment in which the child is born and brought up, according to their circumstances, the child has the individual difference. And although their face may look a bit similar, but their attitudes, their beliefs, their personality are no different. So psychology help us to understand the individual difference of the children. So as a teacher, we should always understand the nature of the individual difference of the children. And we start treating every child as a same, then it is a great mistake for us as a teacher. So as a psychologist, as a teacher, we must always understand the children, and we never compare a student with other student, because all children are different. So this is the third point that psychology has contributed to education, is to understand the individual difference. The fourth point is to understand the effective teaching methods. Say for class 1-2 level, we cannot do a discussion method because it won't be effective for the class 1-2 level of students, but discussion method may be applicable for the class 5 or 6 standard. So according to the age variation and the level of their intelligence, we have to apply the methods of teachings, methods and approaches of teaching. So first point, fourth point is that the psychology has contributed to education is to understand the effective teaching methods. So whatever methods that we choose, it should always be effective. It should be age criteria. It should be as per the psychological level of the learners. And fifth point, the contribution of psychology to education is to understand the problem of children. Actually, we teachers, we are supposed to be a good observer, and we should try to understand the problems of the children. Until and unless we try to understand and analyze the problems of the children is facing, it may be some health problem, it may be some emotional problem, they may have some family problems, they may have learning difficulties, they may have memory problems. So accordingly, we as a teacher, we should try to understand the problems of the children. So psychology helps us as a teacher to understand the problem of the children. So as a teacher, we are the problem solver of the children. 6 point is the contribution of psychology to education is to understand the group dynamics. So as a teacher, we should sometimes we need to divide them into group work, allow them to work in a group, and how it is important for us as a teacher to teach them, dividing them into work activities, group activity, how they are relating to, how they are coordinating and cooperating in a collaborative way where the children are doing. Many a times, some children are very good in the individual level, but when they work in a group, they are not adaptive and they are not cooperative, collaborative. So, as a teacher, we are teaching in the schools, we should always understand the group dynamics. And the contribution of psychology to education is for the curriculum development. So when curriculums are developed, the curricular developer always take into account the knowledge, cognitive abilities, their age level, their ability, and their need base. On basis on that, the structures, the curriculum are devised in such a way, in a very systematic way. So until and unless we understand the psychology of the children, if we start developing the curriculum randomly, or you can say syllabus, so it won't be effective for it won't produce a good output. So as a teacher, we should always understand when we are developing the curriculum, we should always take into account the psychological aspect of the learner. So these are the points that I have just shared with you, is the contribution of psychology to education. So let me repeat to you. The first one is to understand the developmental characteristics. Second point, to understand the nature of classroom learning, or you can say classroom setting or management. Or third point is to understand the individual difference. Number 4 is to understand the effective teaching methods. 2 is to understand the problem of children. And 6 point is to understand the group dynamics. And last is curriculum construction. These are the contribution of psychology to education. There are many more points you can add by yourself, but I have just listed only 7 points. Thank you for today. In the next class, I'll be discussing with you the relevance of the psychology schools teachers.